Hello, and welcome back to Felony Spectator. I am your host, Heather. Today, we're talking about the mysterious disappearance of Angela Hammond. This case has been featured on Unsolved Mysteries, and to this day, it has yet to be solved. There has been a recent update, but we'll get into that at the end. Let's just get into it. Angela Hammond was born February 9th, 1971, and lived in a small neighboring town to Clinton, Missouri. Clinton is a rural and very peaceful farming town, especially back in the 1970s. It's in the heart of America, and nothing really bad happened there. People didn't lock their doors, and everybody knew everybody. Angie was a very outgoing 20-year-old who was referred to Angie by her friends and family. Angie would be really excited for her life ahead because she was also 4 months pregnant. She was also a petite girl at just 4'11" and only 120 pounds. She would work at the local bank and also took classes at Central Missouri State University. Her fiance, Rob Shafer, was an all-star athlete in high school and had plans to join the military. When Angie got pregnant with Rob's baby, he gave her a beautiful diamond ring and told Angie he would always be there for her through everything. On April 4th, 1991, Angie and Rob would be at a friend's house for a barbecue, but they had to leave early so that Rob could babysit his brother at his mom's house. Angie went and saw some friends, and they basically just drove around Clinton just hanging out. Her plan was to meet up with Robbie at the Square, which is in town, after Robbie was done babysitting. However, her pregnancy made her tired, so Angie decided that she'd rather just go home. Her car was parked at the food barn parking lot, so her friend dropped her off there. And from what I found out, Angie and Rob had recently moved in together in a trailer home in Clinton on the outskirts of town. I believe it said that Angie didn't have a phone in their trailer, so she went to the payphone around 11:15 to call Rob with her credit card. This phone was only about 7 blocks from his mom's house and in the food barn parking lot where her car was parked in the middle of town near the Square where she was to meet up with Rob later. Angie was too tired to go out like they originally planned, so she wanted to have a bath, go home, and just relax instead. So she was going to tell Rob to just meet her at home. While Angie and Rob were talking, she would say that an older model green Ford pickup truck had circled the block a few times. And that wasn't immediately alarming, but definitely something she made note of to Rob. The truck would then pull up near the phone booth where she was, and a man would get out of the truck and use the payphone in the booth beside her. He would then go back to his truck. Angie would also describe the man to Rob because he was pretty scruffy looking and just seemed out of place. He was apparently filthy, had a beard or mustache, and wore glasses. The truck's back window was completely covered by a decal of a fish jumping out of the water. While Angie was talking, she also noticed that the man had been looking at something or trying to find something with a flashlight inside his truck. Angie tried to ignore him and continued to talk about other things with Rob when the man would get out of the truck and start walking towards her. She asked the man if he needed to use the phone, and then all of a sudden Rob would hear her scream and someone hung up the receiver. Some accounts say he would also hear the man say, "I didn't want to use the phone anyways." Rob would drop the phone and run out of his house to try and find Angie. As Rob was driving towards downtown, he would pass the green truck that he thought could even have been more yellow when he heard someone scream, "Robbie!" So Rob would turn the truck around in the middle of the street. Unfortunately, when Rob slammed his truck in reverse, he had blown his transmission. He was only able to chase the truck for about 2 miles before the transmission failed completely. Unfortunately, this means that he would see the taillights drive away with his pregnant fiancée. The only thing he could remember was the fishing scene in the back window of the truck and possibly an X or Y on the license plate. Rob would eventually get to a phone and call the police, but he didn't know where the truck went. All he knew it was an older green, possibly yellow Ford with a picture of a fish jumping out of the water on the back. He also said the man was wearing coveralls and a dark-colored baseball hat. Police and the Missouri State Highway Patrol would try and look for the truck, but nothing turned up. The town was completely shocked that something like this could even happen in their small town. About 250 people would gather to search the fields and nearby woods. So many people tried to search by land, by air, but found nothing. Police would soon look towards Rob as a suspect because there was no other witnesses and he was the last one to see her. But he would be cleared about a week later. He also passed several polygraph tests and his alibi never wavered. 2 witnesses also later came forward saying that they saw a truck near the payphone between 11:30 and 11:45, right before Angela disappeared. The man had a mustache and a baseball hat on and was sitting in his truck by the phone booth. A few months later, Clinton police would get a tip that a truck matching the description was abandoned in Lafayette County, about 40 miles from Clinton. The truck turned out to be a blue Chevy and not a green Ford. But an informant also told authorities that a green Ford truck and a body had been buried on the property. The police did speak with the man who owned the Chevy and rented a home on a 60-acre plot of land west of Odessa. He denied knowing Angie, and police were unable to find the green truck. A psychic named Joyce Morgan said she talked to Angie while she was walking on the same plot of land. According to the psychic, 2 men were involved, and Angie knew one of them. Cadaver dogs were brought in, and again, Angie wasn't found. The psychic would then say she was kept on the land for 6 weeks before being taken somewhere else. A place near a bridge or a rock wall or in the basement of a house, but somewhere near water. With that said, the person who lived on that land was cleared by police and they don't really put their faith in the psychic. It's been speculated that Angie's disappearance could be linked to a few other missing women in Missouri. Cheryl Kenny was a convenience store worker who disappeared after locking up her shop in Nevada, Missouri, just outside Max Creek on February 27, 1991. Investigators would locate her car still in the parking lot untouched. 6 weeks before Angie was abducted, Trudy Darby, who was also a convenience store worker in Max Creek, disappeared. When her shift was over, she noticed a man lingering outside. So she would call her son Waylon and told him of this man who was acting suspicious. Waylon decided to go and check on his mom, but by the time he arrived, only 10 minutes later, she was completely gone. Trudy's coat and purse were left behind, and also $200 cash was stolen from the register. Sadly, 2 days later, Trudy's naked body would be discovered in a nearby river. She had been beaten, raped, and then shot point blank twice with a shotgun. Carol Sullen, who disappeared after work, left a bar where she was employed as a dancer and disappeared. She was last seen chatting with 2 men in a pickup truck outside the bar. The theory of there being a serial killer wasn't completely ruled out, and Kenneth McDuff was someone of interest until 1993 when a man named Jesse Rush admitted to his neighbor that he was involved with the abduction of Trudy. His neighbor would tell a trooper, and Jesse's ex-girlfriend also corroborated his involvement. Jesse's half-brother was later implicated, and they were charged with first-degree murder. Unfortunately, they claim they were never connected to the disappearance of Angie or the other women. There was a sighting in Canada in September of 1991 in Selkirk, Manitoba. Apparently, someone matching Angie's description was getting into a green truck after leaving a drugstore. The truck had a white top and mural, which sounded similar to the description of the green truck in Missouri. The tip ended up being a dead end, though, as police weren't able to locate the truck at all. A reward of $16,000 is being offered, and Angie is still listed as a missing person to this day. On the 30th anniversary of Angie's disappearance, this past April of 2021, some additional details were released. The newest theory is that Angie was abducted by accident. as she was mistaken for someone else named Angela. This other woman named Angela had a father who was an informant in a narcotics case. And this man received a note threatening his daughter. This note was sent April 4th, 1991, the same night Angie was taken. It was also one of those notes that were cut and glued letters, not typed or written out. It read, "Hello number, blank, informant's court issued number. We know who you are, number such and such. People like you deserve what you get. We know where your foxy daughter is, and she will see us soon. Tell wife's name. She has our deepest sympathy in her further loss. Goodbye." The informant's wife and daughter were both named Angela and lived in Clinton, Missouri. The police also mentioned that they received a call about the abduction, and the caller mentioned details of this letter. Police are still asking to speak with whomever made this note, and they don't want any names. They just want it completely anonymous, just so they can have answers for the family. My thoughts? I don't even know. It all seems so dramatic. A pregnant girlfriend calls boyfriend from a payphone, is abducted. Boyfriend tries to come to the rescue, gives chase, car breaks down. It seems like a lot. But from what I have learned, people who have lived in Clinton or knew Rob or Angie swear he had nothing to do with it. I do wonder if police got fingerprints from the payphone or if they have any other evidence that they just haven't released. Sometimes I read through the comment section in articles that I find online, and I was reading through one of the articles, and there was someone who claims that when they were younger, they were at a party back in their young, wild days, when someone told them that their family member was responsible and that Angie was put down a well on a farm. Years later, this same person, while running a restaurant, employed someone from Clinton, and that person had the exact same story as the partygoer, which seems like a very strange coincidence. The comment was from 2019, and they said they were going to call the police, so I don't think anything came of that, but that was interesting. I do feel really bad for Angie's mom. Her young, pregnant daughter gone, and she has no answers. It would be so nice if someone who knew what happened could come forward. There has to be someone who knows about that truck with the big fish on the back. What do you think? What happened to Angie? Was Jesse Rush and his brother involved? Was it just a person passing through town, or was she abducted by accident? That's it for today. Thanks again for joining me here at Felony Spectator. If you're new here, hit subscribe and follow along while I give you stories once a week on true crime events. Thanks again. We'll see you next week.